There is a covered dock structure sitting inside Disney's Animal Kingdom right now, visible from the walkways, that has not loaded a single passenger in over 25 years. Most guests walk past it without knowing what it is. It was built for a boat ride that lasted 16 months. The boats are gone. The dragon cave they were supposed to pass through is still on the shore. Guests are standing on top of it today. Disney's Animal Kingdom opened on April 22, 1998, as the largest theme park in the world by landmass. 580 acres, roughly the equivalent of 40 city blocks, carved out of the swampland southwest of the existing Walt Disney World Resort. Roughly 28,000 paying guests walked through the gates on that first day, alongside 5,000 journalists. The turnstiles were locked to non-resort guests by 9 in the morning. Disney had announced plans for the park in 1995 with an estimated construction budget of $600 to $800 million. The actual cost reached approximately $1 billion, and that figure came after significant cuts had already been made in the final 2 years of development. The scale of what Disney had attempted was unlike anything the company had built since Epcot Center opened 16 years earlier. Landscaping crews had planted more than 4 million individual plants across the property. The Tree of Life, the park's central icon, was constructed from a repurposed oil platform and covered with 325 hand-carved animal images. On a warm Florida morning in April of 1998, with the smell of fresh mulch still rising from the paths, it looked like the most ambitious thing Disney had ever opened. But the park that opened was not the park that had been designed. Animal Kingdom was supposed to be built in 3 distinct sections. The first would feature real, living animals on safari and in curated habitats. The second would explore prehistoric creatures through the lens of a fictional dinosaur rescue organization. And the third, the one Disney had promoted most aggressively during the construction phase, was called Beastly Kingdom, a land devoted entirely to mythical animals, divided into competing realms of good and evil. Unicorns, dragons, and creatures pulled from fairy tales, legend, and hundreds of years of human imagination. The official souvenir book, printed for Walt Disney World's 25th anniversary in 1996, featured full-color concept art and written descriptions of this land, as if it were already under construction. At the park's dedication ceremony in April of 1998, CEO Michael Eisner stood before the crowd and spoke the words himself. "Welcome to a kingdom of animals, real, ancient, and imagined. A kingdom ruled by lions, dinosaurs, and dragons." He said dragons. But behind the scenes, the dragon was already disappearing. The good realm of Beastly Kingdom was designed to include Fantasia Gardens, a musical boat ride inspired by the film from 1940, featuring the hippos and alligators from Dance of the Hours, alongside Pegasi, fawns, and centaurs from the Pastoral Symphony sequence. The concept had been alive inside Imagineering since the 1960s, originally discussed as a potential Disneyland attraction, then reconsidered in the 1980s as a possible replacement for the Magic Kingdom's swan boats. A version of it had never been more than a few executive decisions away from becoming real for nearly 4 decades. The evil side of the land would have been anchored by Dragon's Tower, a high-speed roller coaster threading through a burnt-out castle, guarded by what was planned to be one of the largest audio animatronic figures Disney had ever attempted. The creature's body alone was designed to dwarf anything the company had built for the Haunted Mansion or the Indiana Jones adventure. Between those 2 anchors sat Quest of the Unicorn, an interactive walk through maze where guests would awaken 5 golden idols and eventually come face to face with an animatronic unicorn hidden in a grotto at the journey's end. None of it was built. Not the boat ride, not the maze, not the tower. 3 years and $1 billion into construction, Disney still could not afford to complete both the prehistoric and mythical sections on schedule. Eisner chose dinosaurs. Beastly Kingdom was not canceled outright. It was delayed, placed behind a wall of conditional promises, and replaced temporarily by Camp Mini Mickey, a cheaper land themed to the American woodlands of the Northeast, essentially a glorified character meet and greet area designed to exist only until the real construction could begin. Disney's own internal documents described it as a placeholder. The dragon that Eisner had promised from the podium had a box drawn around it on a timeline, labeled with a budget contingency number sitting behind an asterisk. The Dragon Cave is still sitting along the Discovery River. Before this story ends, you will understand exactly what is on top of it. But one piece of the mythical land was supposed to open with the park on day 1. The Discovery River boats. The attraction was designed as a hybrid, part transportation, part scenic cruise, part live preview of the expansion still to come. 7 boats, each carrying 62 passengers, would depart from one of 2 docks, one near the entrance to Safari Village and one at Upcountry Landing in Asia. The route circled the Discovery River, the central waterway surrounding the Tree of Life, covering the full perimeter of the park's existing lands in approximately 18 minutes. A skipper narrated the journey, while a separate animal handler walked the aisles carrying live reptiles, insects, and birds for guests to examine up close. The combination of a moving vessel, live animals in the boat, and scripted narration was meant to feel like the Jungle Cruise, reimagined for a park with no artificial distance between the guests and the natural world. Families sitting at water level, close enough to reach over the side, with something alive being held out toward them every few minutes. The signature moment was supposed to come as the boats entered the future site of Beastly Kingdom. Guests would approach a cave entrance built into the rockwork on the river's edge. Inside the cave, a large animatronic dragon would be waiting. Imagineers planned to build it using molds taken from the animatronic dragon installed beneath Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland Paris, which had opened in 1992. The creature would emerge as the boat drew close, breathing fire toward the passengers. The skipper would steer to avoid it, nervously warning the boat that the dragon may have awoken another creature, a Kraken, rumored to be lurking beneath the surface of the river. The water would begin to bubble. The boat would rock. Fins would surface and begin to encircle the vessel. A lyre would appear. The skipper would play a melody. The creature would calm, sinking back into the deep. And then, just as the tension broke, a unicorn would appear on the far shoreline, rearing up for one moment before vanishing into the mist. The boat slows near the cave. The fire erupts. The water churns beneath the hull. A fin breaks the surface. The skipper reaches for the lyre and plays the melody that calms the creature back into the deep. Then the unicorn appears on the far shoreline, rearing up for just a moment before vanishing into the mist. That was the ride guests were promised. What they got was something else entirely. The budget cuts that delayed Beastly Kingdom reached the Discovery riverboats before they ever carried a single passenger. Nearly every major effect was reduced or removed in the final months before opening. The Kraken scene was eliminated so late in development that at least one of the finished boats, already named and painted, still had cutouts in its hull where the rumbling mechanism would have been installed. The animatronic Dragon was scrapped entirely. In its place, Disney installed a single fire effect that would trigger automatically as boats passed the cave entrance. The fire effect stopped working within a few weeks of opening day. What remained after that was a slow cruise past rocks. The dead knights that had been scattered around the cave as set dressing, giving the entrance the appearance of a place already fought over and lost, were also removed early, leaving the cave mouth bare. Meanwhile, in the Dino-Land section of the route, Disney had built a full-scale iguanodon animatronic to stand in the shallow water near the riverbank. Maintaining a complex hydraulic figure submerged in a Florida waterway, exposed to heat, humidity, algae, and mineral deposits year-round, proved difficult almost immediately after opening. The iguanodon quickly lost its realistic range of motion and began cycling through a reduced set of mechanical gestures. The ride was now offering guests a malfunctioning dinosaur in the section that was functioning, and an empty cave in the section that was supposed to be the main event. Joe Rohde, the creative lead of Animal Kingdom, had reportedly advocated strongly to keep the Dragon animatronic in the budget, arguing that the attraction would be severely lacking without a significant central effect at the Beastly Kingdom entrance. He was right. The boats had been given an 18-minute run time built around that one moment, and without it, the pacing of the route exposed every other gap. But the budget had already been spent. The Dragon had lost the argument before the park opened. During cast member and annual pass holder previews in March of 1998, lines for the boats stretched past an hour. The demand was real, and the departure frequency was high enough in those first weeks that the queue moved steadily. When the park opened to the general public on April 22nd, those lines grew even longer. The problem was what waited at the end of them. Guests had boarded expecting something in the style of the Jungle Cruise, with animatronics, comedy, and surprises timed to the narration. What they experienced was an 18-minute float past tropical foliage, occasional puns from the skipper, and small animals held up by cast members. Attendance at the dock remained high through the spring, partly because the park itself was packed with first-season curiosity. In that opening year, Animal Kingdom drew approximately 8 million guests. But the satisfaction numbers coming back from the riverboats were not matching the queue lengths. Guests were waiting 50 minutes for something that was over in 18 minutes, and left them with very little to describe to the person who had stayed behind on a bench. Within 2 months, Disney shifted the attraction from a continuous loop to round-trip operations, loading guests at one dock and dropping them at the other. Park maps added a warning that this was a one-way trip. If guests wanted to return by boat, they had to queue at the far dock and wait again. In November of 1998, 7 months after opening, the ride was renamed Discovery River Taxi. The new name was an admission. The show had failed. The ride was now classified as transportation. And here is where the story turns strange. In March of 1999, Disney re-themed the attraction again, this time as the Radio Disney River Cruise. The scripted narration was replaced by audio from 2 Radio Disney DJs, just plain Mark and Zippy, supposedly broadcasting live from somewhere inside the Tree of Life. The mythical kingdom the ride had been built to introduce was gone. The Dragon Cave was dark. The iguanodon barely moved. And the soundtrack was now a children's radio promotion echoing across the Discovery River while guests floated past the ruins of a concept that had never fully existed. That same month, Disney management reviewed the Beastly Kingdom plans one final time. The decision was made conditional on a single external benchmark. The land would move forward only if Universal Studios' Florida's Islands of Adventure, which was preparing to open that summer with a Harry Potter-adjacent mythical land called the Lost Continent, could be shown to have a measurable detrimental effect on Walt Disney World attendance figures. Exit surveys and attendance tracking later suggested that even if Beastly Kingdom were built, the projected attendance increase at Animal Kingdom would not justify the construction cost at that stage. The threshold was never met. Beastly Kingdom was effectively dead. It had just taken 3 years from opening day for the paperwork to catch up with the decision that had been made before the park ever opened. The cave mouth sat dark on the riverbank while that decision was being processed. No fire, no dragon, no knights, just Florida humidity slowly pulling the color from the rockwork. On August 21, 1999, the Discovery riverboats closed permanently. 16 months of operation, 3 names, 1 fire effect that worked for a few weeks. The first extinct attraction in Animal Kingdom's history. But what most accounts leave out is what stayed behind. The boats were removed, the gangways were pulled from the docks, but the covered dock structures themselves remained standing, and they are still there. The Asia dock at Upcountry Landing was eventually repurposed for character meet and greets, then converted into a seating area and stroller parking. The hot spring geysers near the Africa Pavilion, once programmed to erupt as boats passed, stopped shooting water. The formations are still visible, best seen from the bridge connecting Africa to the newer lands along the river. The decrepit village set pieces built along the route were left where they sat. The dragon rock fountain stayed. And the cave, the one built to hold a dragon that was never installed, a fire effect that worked for weeks, and dead nights that were pulled before the first summer ended, sat on the shore of the Discovery River while millions of guests walked through the park around it year after year. No sign identified it. No plaque explained what it had been. Foliage grew over it slowly, swallowing the rockwork that Imagineering crews had installed in the late 1990s. For more than a decade, the cave just sat there. The boats are gone. The dragon never came. The cave stayed. There is one detail from the ride's afterlife that rarely gets mentioned. The static unicorn figure that once stood on the shoreline, visible briefly as boats passed under a bridge near the Beastly Kingdom entrance, was removed early in the attraction's lifespan. It apparently sat in a Disney backstage storage area for years afterward. When construction in that area of the property eventually required the space to be cleared, someone decided to auction it off through a sale available only to Disney cast members. The unicorn was listed simply as a plaster unicorn, with no mention of what attraction it had come from, what land it had been built to represent, or what it was supposed to mean to guests who had seen it from the water. The listing was wrong about the material. The statue was fiberglass. The iguanodon animatronic, the figure that had been substituted for the dragon as the ride's centerpiece, and then broken down in the Florida heat anyway, was reportedly stripped of its outer skin and shipped overseas. The creature built instead of the dragon was sent to another continent without its surface. But the Dragon Cave did not disappear. Something stranger happened. When Camp Mini Mickey, the placeholder land built in place of Beastly Kingdom, was finally demolished to make room for a new themed area, Disney constructed a new boardwalk path connecting Africa to that expansion along the bank of the Discovery River. The path runs directly over the Dragon Cave. Guests walking between lands now stand on top of the rockwork that was built to breathe fire at 62 passenger boats carrying families through a preview of a mythical kingdom that was promised from a podium and never delivered. They are physically closer to the cave today than any boat passenger ever was. The cave is not marked. The path does not mention what is underneath it. Michael Eisner stood at a podium in 1998 and promised a kingdom ruled by dragons. The cave built to introduce that kingdom is now a footpath. The dragon never arrived. Guests walk over it every day, and the boardwalk is open right now. Did you ever ride the Discovery River boats before they closed? Leave the year in the comments. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe.